Can you actually stand being a foreigner? Can you handle it? You dream of moving abroad, but do you have what it takes to be a foreigner in a new country? I'm going to show you what that costs, and by the end of it, you will know if you're actually built for life abroad. If we haven't met yet, I'm Diedre. I'm a Jamaican in France. I've moved abroad 5 times. I've lived on 4 continents and solo traveled to 27 countries so far. I'm living in France right now, and part of that is me working in HR and helping our foreign employees with their paperwork to stay in France and continue working in France. And outside of that, I coach women on moving abroad and moving to France. So why I'm telling you all of that is the point is that being a foreigner it isn't a foreign concept to me. I've lived every stage of it. I have gone through at least 5 visas in France. And so it just came to me that do people really know what it takes to be a foreigner? And yes, it's the paperwork, it's the visas and all those things. Yeah, but I mean, on an emotional mental strength point of view. Like when you picture your move, you have your dream country. We're just gonna use France, right? But picture your dream country. You want to move abroad. You've always dreamed about it. And when you picture your move, you're probably picturing a change of scenery, new streets. Maybe you're like thinking about what kind of apartment you want to get, better bread if you move to France. um you're saving all of your Pinterest boards or you're scrolling through social media. And you will get that. You will get all of that scenery that you saved on Pinterest, on your social media, etc. That part is real. When you move abroad, you move from your home country where you're a local, which means you belong where you are. You know where things are. Without thinking about it, you know how the place runs, right? You know what to do, how to do, who to be, how to be, etc. And so when you move abroad, you move from being a local to being a foreigner. Eventually, you become a local again. But being a foreigner isn't like this line that you join once and you're like, yes, stamp the visa and then, hey, you're no longer a foreigner. Being a foreigner is who you are in every room that you walk into. And meaning you are going to be unknown in every place, and every place will be unknown to you. You will feel like that for a lot longer than you imagine. Sometimes it's hard to envision that because if you don't have a frame of reference, sometimes it makes it hard. Like you don't know what you don't know. So this is why I'm sharing. Let's look at just competence. Right now, where you're sitting, you know how your world works where you are in your country. Like I said, you know how it works. You know which line to go to in, at the bank. You know how to get an appointment with a doctor. You know how your health system works. You know how to bargain at your market. You know how to argue. You know how to like debate and tell them that it's the wrong charge or, negotiate for better fees. You know how to read the room in a meeting. You know how to get the things done that need to get done. You know how to do this already in your home country. You're a grown adult who has their life handled. Maybe not to the level that you'd like, but still you're doing it. And you've handled your life for so long that you've probably forgotten that being able to do all of those tiny daily life things is actually a skill that you build. And it's not this fact of nature, fact of culture, fact of where you live, etc. It's a skill to be able to adult, to do these daily things, to understand the culture that you're in, just to understand the world that you're in, the way it works, the world that you're currently in. It's a skill that you build, and it's a skill that you build through constant exposure and practice and going through the routines of daily life there. And so when you move, when you move to a foreign country, you move to France, for example, all of that just goes through the roof, like it disappears. All of that, you literally start from base zero. And if you add like a foreign language to that, even if you are fluent, even if you have a good level in that language, you start from beginner all over again. You can't read the letter that comes in the mail. You probably don't know how the post office works. I remember I was trying to figure out how the post office works in France. The post office in France, La Poste, is its own world. I don't think even French people knows how the post office works. It's like its own universe. And sending a letter is, my God, when you have to send Une lettre recommandée avec accusé de réception. My God. So this is kind of like a registered letter, but everything you have to send like a registered letter in France for like almost everything. And I remember just trying to like figure out that process. Or you don't need to do that so much now, fortunately. But when I moved to France, just randomly you would need stamps. You need to buy stamps for things. And they're like, oh, you need to put four €2 stamps here or whatever. And I'm just like, oh my God, why do I need to have a stamp for so many processes here? And eventually I learned that, you had to just buy stamps and just keep them in your purse or your wallet or whatever, in your bag, just to have. And that was like something that I had to figure out. We never had any of this in Jamaica. Like posting things, mailing things was so super simple. But there are so many elements that I had to figure out. I went off on a bit of a tangent, but this is what I mean about just understanding that all of your competencies literally goes back to base zero to beginner, right? You will just need things explained to you. You go from the person who handles all of your life and knows what you're doing. You move from that to the person who needs help mailing a letter, getting to the post office, figuring out which line and what to do. As simple as that. And if you're someone who's built your whole sense of identity is built on being competent and capable, which describes many of us, it can hit so much harder when you get to a foreign country and you're like, I'm not capable of doing any of this. As in, you are capable, but you're just not able to do it. You're like, that how to, again, I keep the post office because I just picked up letters from my post box, that's why. But like, how to mail, you know how to mail a letter, but you're just not able to mail a letter in France or in the foreign country that you're in. And when you've built your sense of self and your identity around you're a capable, competent person, moving abroad will humble you real quick, real quick. Uh, you'll be knocked down a couple notches. Just be like, yeah, girl, we know, but you're gonna have to start over and learn this a different way. And so that's what I say, like, do you know what it takes to be a foreigner when you're dreaming of your life abroad? And this is part of the reason why I coach women to move abroad, and especially to move to France. And this is why I have my workshop, Move to France the Essential, where we go through all of this, what life can be like from an everyday level. So my workshop, Move to France the Essential, it starts with the why and giving you a readiness and clarity check before we touch on different visas or budgeting, because the foundation of moving abroad is having the right mindset and understanding what you're getting into before you start figuring out administrative process. And so it runs once a month. There's a replay if you can't make it, and it's made for people who knows but still wants to have the details of the essentials of what it takes to move to France. The link for the workshop is in the description, so you can check it out if you're interested. So I talked about competence, of how your competence and capabilities will be just smacked down to beginner level. Yeah. The second thing is language and the language barrier. And I think this is something that many people fear a lot, but for me it's quite an adventure. But in your own language, you're a full person. Even me now being fluent in French, I have learned the skill of clarifying. But even I'm just like, you know what, let me clarify, let me rephrase. Because if I can miscommunicate and if I can get things wrong in my own native language, then for sure in a foreign language, double check and verify. But in your own language, you are a whole person. You can be funny, you can be witty, you're sharp, you can be warm, you know how to send like emotional cues, you can make a point, you can get everybody to laugh with you or sympathize with you, like you have range. And then you're standing in the middle of a French conversation and all of that shrinks down to these few words that you can reach for. Which earlier on in the move abroad process, it's probably not that many French words. And so you go from being able to say clever, witty, funny things, perhaps, or being able to say and express yourself exactly the way that you want, to somebody who says like monosyllables, one line sentences, and everything is flat and monotone and simple. And that distance between you is like, I may sound like a 5-year-old right now, but I am smart in my own language. That distance is so much things are happening in your head and at an emotional level where the distance between what you want to say in your native language and what comes out in your from your mouth in the foreign language, that distance is the longest marathon ever, right? And sometimes it can be a lonely feeling. I think sometimes I get lonely earlier. It would be a little bit lonely where you're just like, I wanted to say something funny, or I know the topic they're talking about and I know so much about it, but I'm not able to share anything. And I would think about that. Um and just try to like re-encourage myself, or not be discouraged to shrink or back out of the conversation because I don't know enough words. I don't know enough of the words that I want to say in French. And sometimes it makes you worry, or for me, for sure, I had a bit of concern. Like, I just felt like people would meet like a flattened version of me. Like, they wouldn't know that I'm quick thinking or I'm smart, or, it was just me talking slowly. And even now, I of course, I still speak slowly in French. I still get grammar wrong. And you can't like go and say, I might seem really two-dimensional right here, or one-dimensional or whatever, but in my home country, I'm super interesting, okay? Like, you don't get to do that. So let's talk about like even another point that just popped up of what it means to be a foreigner, what it takes is at home, when you're in your home country at home. And I've spoken about this in a couple of my other videos. So just check the playlist. I have a Life Abroad playlist, so you can check it to to see. But I talk about that quite a bit, and it's this: when you're at home in your home country, you have history. People know you. You have a reputation. You have a network. You have someone to call when it matters, or people call you when it matters. You have years of roots and friendships and network and sometimes community, but you have roots in your home country. But when you move, you have to start like planting all over again. Like, you don't have roots, and you have to start building, growing those roots, and you have to start all over. Nobody knows who you are. For me, I think it's twofold for everything. Like, this is being able to grow roots and start over. For me, it's bittersweet because there's so much adventure and there's so much opportunity to become a different version of yourself. And it can be to cast away, character traits that you don't like, or maybe you want to, practice being more of one version of you than the other. And I think like being able to start over, it's such a great gift that moving abroad and traveling just in general and living abroad helps, because you are growing your roots and you're growing and building your history all over again. And so you get to create and to design who you are, and you get to rediscover different parts, and you get to test out, different parts of your personality, and you get to evolve with less pressure into who you want to become, or who your values are. When it's a much easier process to do when you move abroad and when you live abroad. And so that's a sweet part, but the bitter part is that you do have to uproot yourself and give up a lot of those old roots that you had. And so it takes a while. You will feel less grounded than you were in your home country. It takes a while to feel grounded again. And I think that's like the bitter part. And so this uprootedness is a bittersweet process when you move abroad. And in this way, you walk in with no story attached. You're a new woman with an accent and a blank history, and you have to build all over again. One slow coffee, one slow tea, one slow conversation at a time. And it can be quite humbling to do that. And it's humbling in a way that's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to like prepare for because sometimes, and especially it goes back to the woman, especially if you're a person who builds your sense of identity or self around your competence or your capabilities, it can become really, really humbling because you never notice like how much of your confidence was built around what other people knew of you. Sometimes it can feel like an adventure to do that, but oftentimes it doesn't feel brave or romantic or any scene out of a great coming of age story. Like it doesn't really feel like that on the day to day. It feels like being small. Sometimes it feels like being a long way from home. I think those are like the three biggest parts of enduring. Yeah, this is the word, enduring being a foreigner in a new country. And many people don't wrap their heads around that. And part of that is because it's not always easy to be a foreigner in your home country. But there's one way that you can do it. And I wrote this in my book, in which chapter? But I forget which chapter, but I wrote about this in my book. Is that I think it's actually chapter 1, is that you can learn how to be a foreigner in your home country. Like you can practice foreignness in your home country. And that's through doing things alone in a different city or a different part of your country that you don't really visit. And so you are a bit of a stranger. When you do everyday daily life alone in those places in your home country, you can practice and you can get a sense of what it might be like when you move abroad. And so if you're really interested in living abroad and moving to France, for example, then I would say practice that kind of like foreign solo life in your home country. Go to a different city you've never visited before where you don't really know anyone, and then just try to do normal life things there where you don't have like a community. Of course, it won't be the same as when you're completely in a different country, when you're actually in the foreign country, but it gives you a taste, a sense of what that's like. Or solo travel, which is one of my first loves. Solo travel, go on a solo trip for longer than 5 days. If you can go on a solo trip for like an actual good week, 7 days minimum, but 2 weeks is better. 1 month is even great. Even greater. If you can solo travel to a foreign country, perhaps the country that you want to move to. So if it's France, come and do a solo travel in France. And that will give you a good, really, really good sense. I think that's the closest sense of what life could be like in the new country and what life could feel like for you as a foreigner. I think there is also one last part. Being a foreigner is also a status. So it's not just newness. It's like a legal status that's stamped in your passport and it trails you everywhere. And in France, that means the prefecture. The prefecture. And being a foreigner for many people, for almost everyone, it doesn't even matter if you're non-EU or if you have a strong passport or a weak passport, because this is living abroad equalizes that. For tourist travel, then there's a difference, but moving abroad equalizes that. And foreigner also becomes a status, and it means renewals, it means paperwork, it means having a bit of impermanence, and sometimes you might not attach a lot of things to routine because you don't know what's going to happen in a year or two. And it also means having to prove every year, every 2 years, every 4 years, or whatever, that you are allowed to be where you are. And so that comes with its own level of pressure, own level of way of doing things, and concern and worry. Yeah. And so being a foreigner is a feeling and a fact all at the same time. And the fact is that legal status, and it doesn't soften the way that you feel. I've done about 6 of these renewals myself in France. I handle other people's paperwork at work. And even so, I still feel that layer every time. And I didn't want to I should I should have talked about this before, perhaps, but I didn't want to end on this note. It feels like again a little bit bittersweet. But I'm not laying this on you to like scare you off. I'm trying to share what it really means and at an emotional mindset level, the realities of being a foreigner. It's not always romantic streetlights walking along, the Parisian cities or walking along the French Riviera or any of this. It, it's that plus other things, plus more. And I think we don't talk a lot enough about the plus more side. And that's the day to day realities of being a foreigner. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Many times, the people who struggle when they get to France are and struggle with the feeling of foreignness are the people who again really really attach themselves to competency. Like if they fall into the doom and gloom of I'm no longer competent, I'm a beginner, and they fall into the doom and gloom of that, then they will struggle a lot with moving abroad and with living abroad. But if you spin it and your sense of identity and self is being capable and being competent, then you can spin it and be like, yeah, but part of my capabilities and part of me being competent is that I'm adaptable and I'm capable. I can figure it out. If you take that mindset and you shift it into that part of adaptability and curiosity, then it makes life abroad way easier because you can't escape this feeling of foreignness, of being foreign. You can't escape it. You are a foreigner. Like there's nothing that you can do about it. You're a foreigner. You will be a foreigner for some time. I think for me it takes like 2 years to really feel like perhaps you're a local in this place. And so if you have a strong sense of identity attached to being capable, then I would suggest to you to flip that into I can do it and I can figure it out and I'm adaptable and I have a level of curiosity and skills that I can use to live life abroad the way that I want. If you can do that, then you will succeed. That's what you need to have to be built to endure life abroad as a foreigner. If I made this sound like this one long warning, Mm, let me shift it and let me share a real honest truth as well is that being a foreigner is a season. It's something you go through and you have to go through and you pass through the worst of it. The worst of it starts at this first. And if you can get through the worst part of the season of being a foreigner, then you'll be fine because it gets easier as it goes along, for sure. The fumbling, the feeling of shrinking yourself, the feeling of not being known or know what to do, that goes away and it goes away day by day of you practicing your life in practicing, well, living your life in France. Day by day, you learn more, etc. And it's really what you did when you're back home. You just have years of experience under your belt because you started when you were a baby, but you practiced daily life. You lived your daily life in that country, and that's how you learned, and that's how you understood the culture by participating. And so you do the same thing when you move abroad. It's just that the difference is a bit more stark because you're coming from an advanced local level and then whoosh, you're down back to being a beginner. That's the thing that is the jarring effect. But yeah, I think belonging isn't something that you're born holding. I mean, sure, I get the parts of that, but I think belonging is something that you can curate and develop for yourself in the way that you choose to live your life. and where you choose to live your life and how you choose to live it where you've chosen. Like, I think that's how you build belonging. So, yeah, you don't have to already know you can handle everything. You just have to have a sense of this question. Can you be small for a while? Can you be a beginner for a while? Can you be bad at things for a while? Can you be unknown for a while? Can you not know things for a while? Can you do that for a while as you go along the journey of building a life abroad that is yours? Sit with those questions and figure out how you can do it. And once you have a sense of what those answers are, then you'll know that you're on your way to being built to be a foreigner and to have a life abroad. I'm Diedre, and I help women move to France to build the lives that they desire because they deserve it, because you deserve it. See you next time. Ciao.